Hello everybody, this is John and Glenn with BestPriceNutrition.com. Today we're going to go ahead and review the BPI Build HD. It's the new product from BPI, and basically what it is, it's a creatine-based product with creatine monohydrate as the main ingredient. Specifically, you get 3 grams of creatine, and 3 to 5 is about an efficacious dose of creatine monohydrate. If you want to know more about the specifics of creatine, we have a video about why, when, how, what, any question you can think of how to take it that we go into precise detail on creatine. Bottom line is creatine monohydrate is the most researched, best form of creatine that'll save you the most money, because these novel forms of creatine at best are as good as creatine monohydrate. So if you want more on those, check out that video. Now this product, Glenn, what sets it apart from being just a creatine product is the idea that it's like a phospholipid-based product that's going to help you focus more, kind of go for that nootropic type, neurotransmitter-based deal. So why don't you go through the ingredients? Let's hit the L-aspartic acid first. What is it?
L-aspartic acid, now not to be confused with D-aspartic acid.
Yes.
These are different. So L-aspartic acid, it's a non-essential amino acid. It does stimulate the NMDA receptor in the brain, which plays a role in memory and cognition, but it's not a very strong, it's not very strong, I should say. Like glutamate or MSG is much stronger at doing that. It can also, if you're deficient in amino acids, it can be used to possibly make other amino acids, but it's not essential because we do get enough of it, or body can produce it, I should say. And so yeah, that's what I found with it.
And you said it's contrasted with D, and just basically they're non-superposable mirror images, and they're completely different in your body. You know, like your hands, D versus L. It's just the difference between them. They're stereoisomers, I believe is what we call those. Next is acetyl L-carnitine. You know, that ingredient is interesting because there's a lot of the research on it, if you go look it up, seems to be pretty beneficial when taken with our alpha-lipoic acid. They seem to have a really good synergistic effect. But also, I was able to find some research that was done with some ingredients that are actually similar to these in here, the phosphatidylcholine specifically, and the phosphatidylcholine and the glycerol phosphorylcholine as well, when taken in combination with that. So we don't know which ingredient did what. It was a study that was done with college students and their ability to focus. You know, they measured mental acuity, things like that. Now, these are subjective measures, so they're not always the easiest to get empirical data on, because depending upon how well controlled the study is, it's hard to, you know, justify those feelings. But relative to placebo, in the short term, was about a 4-week study. It was found that it can help them maintain reaction time when they're sleep deprived. Feelings of focus and alertness were improved, and acetyl L-carnitine was one of the main ingredients in that blend. So for the purpose of this, that was really where I saw maybe it could be beneficial in terms of helping focus. So again, subjective measures, but versus placebo, it seemed to do okay. Did you find anything else on acetyl L-carnitine, or is that kind of
really that was it? It's just basically carnitine with an acetyl group.
Yeah, the fat burning effects of carnitine make perfect sense on paper. However, in reality, they've never come to bear to fruition, because the idea that they do transport fatty acids, you know, to the mitochondria, which you'd think would lead to lower body fat or better fat burning, it actually doesn't go that way, at least in practice. That may change, but that's where it's at right now. So the next ingredient, Glenn, CoQ10.
CoQ10, it's a very popular antioxidant. You might have seen it recommended for people with heart problems, heart conditions. A lot of that is because it's most found prevalently around the heart. It does have some research showing that it can help with increasing energy levels, things like that, but it's not, anybody's ever taken CoQ10 by yourself, you're not getting a boost in energy, you're really not feeling it.
It's more like it's helping with the electron transport chain, basically, and you're yielding of ATP, or cellular energy. So when we talk energy, we're talking ATP, cellular energy, and we know what it does in a textbook. The question is, you know, it's got antioxidant properties. You know, everything makes sense in theory. There is some conflicting evidence. Some evidence shows CoQ10 to be, you know, maybe this phenomenal thing, especially in, you know, elderly populations or people, you know, who need more CoQ10, basically. We'd like to see more research on it with athletes. So it's one of those things that may be really, really good, but we're not sure, and it's not the cheapest ingredient, it's not the cheapest raw material. But it's in here, so if you are intrigued by the other ingredients, it might just turn out to be an added bonus for you. You know, that's the main thing. And the other thing, too, it might help with is, I believe it helps with the small, dense LDL cholesterol, the ones that aren't protected by cholesterol itself, the lipoprotein. It may help inhibit the oxidation of that. I think there's some pretty good research in that area. So.
Yeah, and
not that that's the intention of it here.
There's other ingredients that we'll go through in a second that are considered phospholipids, and A lot of times, a lot of research have shown that CoQ10, when combined with phospholipids, does have an enhanced bioavailability. So
Yes, good
that is something good.
Yeah, because absorption may be one of the things that's caused the conflict in research. So, and there's the whole ubiquinone versus ubiquinol. That's nonsense, so don't worry about that.
They go
back and forth in the body. It really doesn't matter. And I believe the ubiquinol actually costs more, so the ubiquinol is fine, so don't let that steer you in the wrong direction. Next ingredient?
Alpha GPC. Basically, it's about their thinking is it delivers choline to the brain. So it's a precursor to acetylcholine. Acetylcholine in the brain is very useful for memory, cognition, any kind of brain function. Acetylcholine is important for.
Yeah, the muscle control, and kind of the idea behind increasing choline levels is that it's been found from intense long bouts of exercise that choline levels can decrease. And a lot of the research has been done on like cyclists and marathon runners and things like that. Those are people who are putting their bodies through a lot of stress. And perhaps if we haven't seen this research, let's say you're doing some real intense training, strength training and whatnot, those choline levels can likely decrease significantly. And they've found that you've been able to increase performance, better strength output, better focus, things like that, when those choline levels can stay elevated. And also the thought is that some people tend to have lower choline levels to start if they follow the fad of the low-fat diet. The lipid hypothesis has been debunked, so those of you who are trying to avoid fat like the plague, don't, because the evidence behind it is not there. In fact, the evidence is to the contrary. We'll cover that in some other videos that we're going to do, because that can be quite the subject when you get into fats. They're not all created equal. There's different ones and things like that. But by and large, people maybe not avoiding egg yolks because they're worried about cholesterol and fat. That's a really good source of lecithin, which what phospholipids can be. So sometimes there's some of that going on too. So that's the idea behind increasing choline levels when we talk about these ingredients. So the alpha GPC may increase choline, which then would lead to an increase in acetylcholine. So, which again, plays a role in the brain. Last one, Glenn, was what? Phosphatidylcholine.
Phosphatidylcholine. It's a class of phospholipids. More importantly, it incorporates choline into it. So again, the choline part of it. The body uses phosphatidylcholine to make acetylcholine. So again, the raise in acetylcholine in the brain, the cognitive effects, memory, things like that.
And they're an essential part of a cell structure. Those of you who've been in a biology class or opened a textbook, you'll heard of the phospholipid bilayer, things like that. That you have to have them. So the thought here is maybe by increasing those, that's going to help your cells function better. Perhaps, like you said, past blood-brain barrier, get your choline levels up. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Now, the question that we've come across, we were talking about this before the videos, is the dose. I mean, pretty much most research we found was on phosphatidylserine, which is closely related, somewhere between 800 milligrams, depending on which study you looked at, may or may not be effective. That was done for the short term. So, really we'd like to see where, we do know that it can increase choline levels better than choline itself. When they compare the supplementation, these tend to absorb better, but the question is where does that dose lie? We're really not sure.
Yeah, these 5 ingredients are part of a 1,500 milligram proprietary blend, so we don't know how much of what.
Yeah, we don't know how much of each, like you said. So it may be really promising. I think it's kind of cool. I think at worst you're getting creatine monohydrate, which we know is a really good ingredient. So based on those subjective things, like we said, like focus and things like that, maybe it's worth rolling the dice. If you've got the extra cash and you want to give something a try that's a little bit different than creatine, it may make sense for you because there is some promise there behind the ingredients. It's kind of a unique formula. So we can only tell you what we can tell you based on the information we have at hand. There's some conflict in the research. Probably just basically like to see more when it comes to athlete populations, some more well-controlled studies to confirm it, but everyone has a different criteria for how or why they want to buy something. Maybe someone should try it and see how it goes for them,
Yeah. I mean, is this something you're going to feel something from? You'll get the boost in or the increase in ATP from creatine, things like that, but as far as the brain benefits, we don't know.
Some evidence shows that, getting those choline levels up will help, so depending on the kind of training you're doing. So there's a lot of variables there to consider as to how beneficial it may or may not be. So overall, pretty cool formula. By the way, is there a flavor on this? This is watermelon.
Watermelon.
We have both watermelon. I want to say there's 2 flavors, but we could be wrong.
There might be a
at a minimum, we know there's a watermelon. It's new, so I apologize for not knowing that right offhand. And there's 30 servings per container. So if you guys have any other questions on it, please feel free to post them in the comments section. We're happy to answer. Also, check us out at facebook.com/bestpricenutrition. We really appreciate you watching. Thank you.